It's the battle of the edgelords, Hunter Biden and Nick Fuentes debate. Before we get into it, my name is Casey. I'm a husband, father, a therapist of more than a decade, and I created this channel to try to promote a future of faith, fatherhood, and freedom because I saw that all of those values were falling apart starting in 2020. If you can get behind that, please like the video on the way in. I would love to further earn your support. Can we just agree that these two are not the exemplars of either left-wing thought or right-wing thought, and that we could both do better in terms of our representatives if we wanted to express our ideas within a debate, especially our political ideas which are ruling the day? However, another just side note, I cannot get over the fact that Hunter Biden's voice sounds so much like his father's voice that I just cannot take in anything that he says. But this debate, from what I can tell, although it is a long slog, is an extreme lecture on the part of Hunter Biden towards Nick Fuentes, and it seemed extremely one-sided. Hunter Biden starts off his lecture of Nick Fuentes by saying that his wife is Jewish and that the whole possibility that maybe the Holocaust was a little bit misrepresented is hurtful to Hunter Biden's family and to his feelings. And I'm not kidding, that is what he says.
Well, it's a joke.
But it's not, Nick. My wife is Jewish. My son is Jewish. No, Nick. I promise you. Don't get mad.
I'm not mad.
Okay,
it's
I know. But you gotta understand.
Nick Fuentes retorts that he doesn't believe that this actually hurts Hunter Biden's feelings and that he believes he's using it as sort of a wedge to try to get through the door and get people to sympathize and empathize with him. Although they can agree that they both dislike Bibi Netanyahu. Of course, there must be some point of agreement, and this is where a lot of right-wingers will accuse sort of the left and right of coming together in this horseshoe theory, but I believe there are good explanations for why that is not exactly true, because we still disagree so vehemently on so many points.
Incredibly, whether it's a joke or not, it's a lived experience passed down from generation to generation, whether or not and by the way, not just from the Holocaust, not just from 1939 on, 2,000 years of history, okay? Forget about Israeli politics and Netanyahu, because I think we agree about Bibi Netanyahu. I'm positive we do. And I've listened to you talk about it. But you gotta understand, look at me, man.
I see.
It hurts.
Nick Fuentes then comes back and says that part of the reason for his popularity is because he is willing to say offensive things, and that during so much of the height of wokeness, so many people were being canceled, debanked, becoming unemployed because of the things that they said, that Nick Fuentes was sort of a representative or an exemplar of those edgelords, those people who were being marginalized in society. So he took sort of the same tactics of some of those wokies during the 2010s, and he used them and applies them to now, white Americans, groypers in this case. And I'm not even entirely sure that he's wrong. There has been a marginalization of certain people over the last decade. It has been sort of the heritage Americans, or the people who founded and built this country, the WASPs, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. Those people have been on the margins now, and that's part of the reason for Nick Fuentes' popularity that he points out here.
You do know that.
See, that's where you lose me.
Okay, Nick. Okay, I'm telling you.
Well, listen, are we here to talk, or are you here to lecture me and preach to me?
Okay, no, you're right. Let me listen.
Okay.
So you're right.
So this is the thing, because, and I think this is a disconnect. I think that the left, and even people on the right, they're losing the young people. Why do people love me? Not in spite of, but because of the outrageous things that I say. Not in spite of, but because I say offensive things. Because I, let's say, drop the N-word on a video or something. It's because people are sick of the preachiness, the lecture.
Hilariously, Nick Fuentes then says that he is Italian, Mexican, Irish, and this is just, I guess, in a way, that's a good representative of, the American heritage, and in the same way, I'm German, Greek, and Polish. So in those ways, I suppose that's the American sentiment, is just European. However, we did, of course, at our founding, add a great many other cultures into the mix, and that's part of the reason why we can't make exactly the same claims that, for instance, the UK would make about who is American? Who is British? Who does England belong to? Who does America belong to? America has just a much more complex set of founding principles because of the multiculturalism. As much as I hate that term, it is how we were founded, on a variety of cultures, and so we don't necessarily make the same claims that England does about who this country belongs to.
You're hating on the people that they think are the reason for their suffering, then you must be on their side. I don't think that you believe that about the Holocaust. I think you think the Holocaust did happen. But forget about whether or not you think that it is used politically in a way that is obtuse and wrong. But I think that you do believe that. And I think that you have to. Like, what's your cultural heritage?
I'm Italian, Mexican, and Irish.
Nick Fuentes then says that part of the reason why he casts dispersions on certain cultures within America is because of the high crime.
Are you saying that the problem with the 26-year-old white kid living in suburbia outside of Chicago and his feeling of being disenfranchised is because there was looting and rioting in Minneapolis by black people? And it's black people that are doing it.
Yeah.
In the police force, in the way in which police treat African Americans. Nick, you could grow up here like I did between Wilmington and Philadelphia. And if you were a black dentist and you lived in Wilmington and you commuted to Philadelphia, the chances of you being pulled over by a state trooper, either Delaware or in Pennsylvania, are about 50 times that would be if it was a white guy.
Nick Fuentes then points out that African Americans are largely victims of the high crime that proliferates throughout their subset of American culture, and that he blames that largely for some of the reasons for his stances.
Is that the problem in America right now is that a 26-year-old white kid who lives in suburban Chicago doesn't feel like he has access because he's been canceled or he's been woke, and the problem is black people.
I didn't say the problem's black people.
Well, you just did, Nick. You just
I said the problem is crime, and we know who's doing the crime in Chicago. The carjackings, shootings, teen takeovers. We know why there's no business on the Mag Mile anymore, and it's because they steal cars, they drive them through windows. And listen, black people are some of the biggest victims of the black crime.
Biden then tries to find a point of agreement in which he and Fuentes can both agree that Trump is a turd. And while they do agree on that point, they are agreeing for totally different reasons. And Nick Fuentes would say that Trump did not go far enough, rehabilitate the America that Nick Fuentes believes is good, true, and beautiful, which would be like a heritage American setup, which means, casting remigration into a great many of the populace, while Hunter Biden would say that Trump went too far and that he brought violence to the streets when ICE came out and attempted to begin to help others remigrate back to their countries of origin. So while they can agree that they dislike Trump, they are in disagreement for the reasons why. Fuentes is that he didn't go far enough, and Biden is that Trump went too far.
Of how much of a shithead Donald Trump is. We can get there. Okay. What I don't understand is how you didn't recognize that in 2016, and how you didn't recognize that in 2020, and how you didn't recognize that in 2024. Because Donald Trump hasn't. Because Donald Trump hasn't changed. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump hasn't changed at all. Donald Trump has been Donald Trump since he came out of the womb.
Hunter Biden then makes the point that Nick Fuentes externalizes his problem by othering people, and he always is externalizing the reasons for the white male populace being sort of the out group now in society is because that the culture has chosen a different in-group. In-group preferences are now given to people of racial minorities, and while there may be some truth to that, Biden does make an effective point here, because he makes it seem as if Fuentes is not taking personal responsibility for some of the problems within his own culture, and that is an effective tactic in this debate.
Because of Venezuelans, because of Haitians, it's always other, Nick, with you. It seems to me, and I've listened to a lot of the stuff. It's always them. Oh, okay. My point being is that whenever you identify your problem as being something that is other, that you can point to, that's a minority, that is a group of people, that's the Jews, before, remember, all of us, it was the Irish Catholics who were all committing the crime, who weren't allowed into bars, who weren't allowed into, because you know why? Because they were dirty, poor, non-Europeans, they were Irish.
Neither one of these characters are people that I believe are good representatives of a worldview that could be an operating procedure that would allow for a good, true, and beautiful American future. However, I do take umbrage with both of them at times, and I do appreciate what both of them say at times. The issues that they are attempting to tackle here are complex, and of course, Hunter Biden, it is amazing that Hunter Biden seems like a reasonable Democrat alongside a lot of what has been happening in the Democrat Party with the communist takeover and the Democrat Socialist of America takeover. So Hunter Biden might actually have been a better presidential candidate than his father, except for the whole smoking crack thing. And they both, sort of laugh at each other, one for being called a racist, one for being called a crackhead, and both of them being sort of marginalized within the last decade and in extremely different ways. So neither one of these are our guy. If you're watching this, of course you probably agree that neither one of these are our exact representatives, but such it is with any creator. You will agree with some of what they say, and when they say enough words, when they are streaming or creating enough content, there will be points of disagreement. And of course, Fuentes has said extreme things sort of as edgelord status grew his fame and his popularity, and so that sort of incentivizes us to just go further and go further. And without a foundation of what you really believe being good and true, that edgelord status necessitates that you keep going further, and that is part of the danger that we find ourselves in with a lot of these content creators. And I believe Hunter Biden is accomplishing his edgelord status by actually engaging with the right wing, and in that way he'll probably find himself marginalized on the left. And so if you would like to continue to be marginalized together here on the right wing, I would love your support. Please like, share, and subscribe.